Welcome back to another episode of Underrated. I'm Lefty.
And I'm Bo.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. Bo, we just finished the first week of the NFL season. We got the first Thursday night game tonight. What are you thinking so far?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. I have a little bit of a week one hangover. I think there was a lot of mind games that were played in week one inadvertently, and I wasn't a fan of a lot of things that happened. But I was also happy none of these fairy tale endings came true.
Oh wow, were you the only person in the country, maybe the world, rooting for the Browns?
I can assure you that I wasn't, but yeah, I mean, I think everybody wanted to see Baker Mayfield go back there and beat his old team. That didn't happen. Everybody wanted to see Matt Ryan just go nuts in his first game with the Colts, and they tied with the Texans. So stuff like that.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan actually did have a pretty okay game. Obviously, didn't light it up in the touchdown
numbers
department.
Wise. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but he's still top three in the NFL after week one in passing yards, and he congratulations to him on cracking 60,000 career yards.
Definitely,
that's a chunk.
It is, and I got high hopes for the Colts. I think they're gonna be all right? So, we'll chat more about that. But I know what's really bothering you right now is, listen, for our fans out there, it's been a hard week for Lefty. The Queen passed away. That's number one. EPL games were canceled. The U.S. National Women's League games.
No, wait, hold on. the UK WSL.
Sorry.
No, I can assure you
I'm
that
shook. I'm still shook up. I'm still shook up from the.
Yeah, I can assure you that the National Women's Soccer League here in the U.S. is still competed, and I went to one of those games.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, just too soon. Just gone too soon.
Yeah. What's the point of being a charge of a empire if you can't crack 100? It's weak.
Right. Exactly. I just, a couple more years and we wouldn't even would have had the seen or heard from Charles. It's just it's a damn shame out there. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we're gonna get back on track this weekend.
Well, some of the games are back. It sounds like they tried to maintain the schedule for teams that they assumed would require a smaller police presence. So some games are suspended, postponed. Others are happening.
Sure.
Yeah. Interesting choices there.
Yeah. I don't know how you go about all that, and it seems like a lot of work. Either call it or don't. But hey, that's why we're not in charge of anything. So, let's talk about the sports world. Why don't we? Unless you've been living under a rock, by now that Spanish teenager just won the U.S. Open men's title, right? You see that? Carlos Alcaraz? Having a great year, I'll say that.
Unfortunately, is completely overshadowed by more recent tennis news already.
I know. Yeah, Federer just couldn't have it, huh? I mean, he just couldn't have it.
He saw all these people talking about Serena. He sees somebody else win the U.S. Open and says, hey, it's my time to shine.
I figure at this point in your life, when teenagers are coming up and just dominating, and people who are 20, 21, it's probably time to hang it up.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that's fair. He's made it a fair amount of money. He's made some pretty smart, merch deals.
Definitely. Going back to Alcaraz, his semifinal showdown with Francis Tiafoe it was some of the most entertaining and exciting tennis I've watched in a long time. Like, I'll just, say that, and after defeating Casper Ruud in the final, he became the youngest number one in history of the ATP rankings. I mean, that's the first teenager in the Open era to, top the men's rankings, and the youngest men's U.S. Open champion since, 1990. That's Pete Sampras. Remember that name? But on the women's side, Iga Swiatek, 21 years old from Poland. I mean, she's already won her third career major title. This is second of the year already. So you can say what you want. she's proven that she's the long-awaited dominant force currently, and for the future of women's tennis. We've talked about Naomi Osaka. We talked about Coco Gauff. Those are just to name a few. If you're a tennis fan on both sides, there's a plethora of exciting young talent. I mean, hold on to your hats. It's gonna be fun for the next few years, and we're gonna see some of these athletes for the next couple of decades, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
it's an exciting time to be a tennis fan.
Yeah, for sure. In other news, Robert Sarver, owner of the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, unfortunately, was suspended for 1 year and fined $10 million for being a misogynistic racist, apparently. He's also been accused of causing a hostile and toxic workplace, wherever he went, including, speaking to employees in a demeaning fashion, as well as yelling and cursing at people. I don't know, Lefty. Can we get these guys the hell out of sports? I don't know. It just seems like this is a never-ending carousel with these owners, man.
Yeah, just like there are no good landlords, there are no good owners.
It's unreal.
And clearly, what does a suspending an owner actually do for a team or for that organization? Absolutely nothing. It's a slap on the wrist.
Right.
It's pretty remarkable that we allow these things to continue to happen.
Sure. And NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has been getting a ton of heat, right? Yesterday he said that he was quoted as saying he didn't have the right to take away Sarver's teams, right? He's been on notice for a while. This has been going on, but, I blame the NBA as much as anyone else. There's got to be some guidelines in every sport. There's got to be some code of conduct, and it's got to apply to some of these owners. And we're going to continue to see this as time goes on, unless they enforce something, right? And you and I talked about it a little bit. I loved your idea about when these things go down. I love your thoughts on what the hell should happen to these teams.
Yeah. We were just kind of spitballing the other day. And there's so much public investment, especially in the stadiums and whatnot, that I think when these sorts of events happen, I think the municipalities that have put forth so much money should actually inherit these teams. At least they'd go to some public good there, whether they eventually sell it for $1 billion or whatnot. That could be up to them or the constituents there. But let's put these teams back in the hands of the people rather than some billionaire who is going to do some shady shit.
Exactly. And, to your point, and like you had said, hey, if the local municipalities are going to fund these giant stadiums and arenas, they should have a piece of the pie, right? There should be some rights there, and, more power to the people, man.
Yeah. Well, and if we can see, in the UK pretty easily, the government was able to kind of seize the Chelsea team after the Ukraine invasion,
right?
Kind of without a hitch, and they eventually sold it. But at the same time, they also could have just done anything with it. If that can happen in an easy way, there's no reason that can't happen here stateside. Whatever our thoughts about ownership of nonsense are.
Exactly. There's absolutely. I like this throwing up of the hands. I don't have any power. There's nothing I can do. It's out of my. Everything's out of your hands, right? We've got to bring in a third party to make these, things happen. So, Well, on to the NFL, as we touched on. Like I said, Baker did not return to Cleveland. He didn't beat his former team. Russell Wilson was not triumphant in his return to Seattle. The Super Bowl champ Rams didn't come out to show the world they were still the team to beat. We just had numerous other things that happened. The Cincinnati Bengals lost to Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers. How do you assess that, right? Is Mitch Trubisky, were the Bears just so bad that they made him a lesser player? Or, is Mike Tomlin just a great coach, right? Lots of questions.
Yeah. I think that the answer for both of those things are no.
Yeah. Maybe it's the Bengals, have taken a step back. Maybe, a lot of last year was a little bit more situational luck, right?
Yeah, well, and it's it's possible Burrow got in his own head. You're the god of Cincinnati. Things can get away from you.
Man, it's so crazy. How did this guy become a freaking sex symbol all of a sudden? I mean, this is really taking a turn now.
Well, I think the issue was that people didn't know about Zach Wilson yet.
Yeah, exactly. All the other players' moms didn't know about Zach Wilson yet. That's what the issue was.
Yeah,
right?
it was a closed door secret.
Yeah. Speaking of that, the Cowboys every year is going to be their year, and it just ended like that before it could even get started. What are you going to do? Dak Prescott. Even funnier is Jerry Jones does an interview yesterday and says he's going to be back. He's going to be back in the next 4 weeks or so. And I found that just to be absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is really a good opportunity for a friend of the podcast, Kellen Moore, to step up.
Yeah, Kellen, if you're out there, listen, we need a phone call or something, man. I mean, you're calling the plays out there, pal. We need to know.
You got to say, if he can turn this one around, if he can turn that offense into something even just adequate, it really is proof that, as some have said in the last year, that he might be the best offensive mind in football. And if he can create something out of whoever they run out there.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be the head coach of the Cowboys there for a minute, But and hey, listen, he may still have a shot at that if, especially if he's able to do something with Cooper Rush and win some games here while Dak's out. But we'll see. I think the biggest story of Week 1 though is the Dolphins beating the Patriots, leaving the stadium, coming out to the parking lot, and finding that half of it is just burnt down and gone away.
Yeah. If it wasn't bad enough that you had to live in Florida, or possibly be a Patriots fan, to come out and find that your car has been burned out because some Florida man left their grill running during the game, that's a rough one. It's a real rough one.
It really is. It's and I don't if you're from out of town, it's so hot in Miami that you probably came out and just thought this is what normally happens when your vehicle just sits out in the parking lot, because it is like the gates of hell down there, with the heat and humidity.
Yeah. Well, with the humidity, it usually prevents those fires, but not there.
Not there. All right, man. So getting back into it, let's jump into the good stuff. All right, Lefty, anybody you want to talk about today?
Yeah, there is a certain someone. As you know, it's getting a little cooler out. We're coming down to fall, soon to be winter, which what do you think of as the quintessential cold weather sport?
Definitely just going to the pumpkin patch and picking them up. That's
okay. So I was more thinking about hockey, but
oh yeah. Hey, I mean that too.
Picking pumpkins is also a fall sport, I guess.
That's right, guys.
So I know you're a longtime hockey fan, but how much do you know about the Flyers dynasty of the 1970s?
Probably about as much as the Flyers dynasty of the 1980s.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right. Exactly.
Anyway, I want to talk about one of those key players from that dynasty.
Definitely.
Winger Reggie Leach.
Reggie Leach. Hell yeah.
Reggie Leach is best known for his 8 years as a winger with those Flyers. Played there from the 1974-75 season through the 81-82 season, and won a Stanley Cup in his first year there. While his legacy is still often absent when it comes to conversations about the greats of the NHL, I think his career, his personal struggles, as well as his impact to First Nations people are well worth a deeper dive.
Definitely.
So, Leach was born to Ojibwe parents, but was soon sent to be raised by his grandparents in Riverton, Manitoba, a small town of only about 1,000 people or so. And that's the town to which he owes his great Riverton Rifle nickname. He grew up pretty impoverished, never had indoor plumbing, never even owned a new pair of skates until he was 16 years old. But despite that modest upbringing, he borrowed some equipment and first gave hockey a go at 10 years old, immediately falling in love with the game. In interviews, late start, not a lot of infrastructure in small town Manitoba, but definitely gave it a go. And in interviews about his time as a child, he spoke about the prevalence of alcohol in his indigenous community, stating that he started drinking at the age of 12 because he thought that was normal.
Man.
Yeah, pretty rough stuff. But at the age of 16, he left Riverton to play junior hockey, where he spent 4 years with the Flin Flon Bombers from 1966 to 1970.
That's a tongue twister. That's what those are called.
That Flin Flon team was kind of sponsored by the local mining company, and he spent those 4 years playing hockey and also working in that mine that subsidized the team. It was with this team in Flin Flon that he first teamed up with future Flyer star Bobby Clark. Over those 4 seasons, he played in 183 games and scored more than 400 points, averaged more than 2 points per game. Well, also quietly weathering the constant racism that was directed at him due to his indigenous background.
Of course.
Those 400 points in less than 200 games led to him being drafted in 1970 third overall by the reigning Cup champions, the Boston Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
So it took Leach a few seasons to get a foothold in the NHL. It's pretty difficult when you're drafted by a powerhouse team, as they don't often have a lot of room for rookies to play minutes.
Right.
In his second season, he was traded to the hockey mecca of Oakland, played for the Golden Seals. His years in Oakland were largely forgettable, surrounded by absolutely no talent, and also the continuous dull hum of racism and alcohol.
Yeah.
But at the insistence of his former Flin Flon teammate and future Hall of Famer Bobby Clark, the Flyers took a flyer on Leach and acquired him in 1974. And yet again, he was the fresh face on a team fresh off a Stanley Cup championship.
All right.
And, this is really where the Reggie Leach story that most people know started. That season, his first season in Philadelphia, he played in all 80 games, and he helped them capture their second consecutive Stanley Cup. He scored 45 goals and made his first All-Star game appearance.
Crazy.
He would follow up in the 75-76 season by leading the NHL in scoring with 61 goals, making another All-Star appearance, and winning the Conn Smythe Trophy as the best player in the NHL playoffs. Despite losing in the Stanley Cup Finals that year, Leach scored a record 19 goals in 16 games, setting a record that he still shares with Yari Curry to this day.
Right.
Just insane production there.
Insane.
So, he never followed up with, the same level of success that he saw in that 75-76 season, but he did continue to play well the rest of his career. He averaged 25 goals per season over his last 7 years, and all told, he played in 13 seasons, accumulating 325 goals, 572 points, and had a career point share of 57.8. His plus-minus in Philly over 8 seasons was an impressive .214. In terms of goals per game, he lands right ahead of Hall of Fame wingers Paul Kariya and Marian Hossa, and in terms of even-strength goals, he lands 3 above Hall of Fame winger Bill Barber. And these numbers really speak for themselves. He was a solid scorer, had some brilliant highs, some brilliant years, and simply he made solid contributions as soon as he found his footing in Philadelphia. But despite this, the Hall of Fame has eluded him. And all of that said, he also had major struggles that were far more weight than similar wingers of similar eras and statistical backgrounds had to deal with. His battle with alcoholism was rooted in social pressure that started when he was only, 12 years old. And that struggle continued throughout his career, to the point where when he attempted to cut back or sober up throughout his career, coaches with the Flyers would heckle him and question his decision-making, telling him that he was a better player when he drank.
It's crazy to think of a young man like that and just, all the adversity you have to overcome, and you're just being enabled, even as an adult.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and further, the obstacles he had to overcome as a First Nations player were also, immense. He's spoken at length about the racially motivated heckling and hate that was thrown his way, dating as far back to junior hockey at 16 years old. And, undoubtedly that onslaught contributed to his troubles with alcohol and ultimately his shortened career. That said, when Leach stepped away from hockey in the mid-1980s and entered rehab, he overcame those troubles with alcohol. And in the nearly 40 years since he retired, he's remained clean from alcohol and dedicated his life to traveling across Canada, talking to other Indigenous kids about the dangers of alcohol and the game of hockey. And as one of only the first handful of First Nations players in professional sports, it's really hard to underplay how influential he's been to that community. So that really leads to the important question. Is Reggie Leach just another winger with good but not great stats? Or is Reggie Leach underrated?
Well, I think, Lefty, from my end, I can absolutely say that Reggie Leach is extremely underrated. And why I say that is you look at the success of those teams. And we can also look at individual success, okay? Just on the ice. He won a Stanley Cup with the Flyers in 1975. He's a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. He's a playoff MVP, right? I mean, he had a season where he scored 61 goals and 91 points. I mean, he led the league, that year. At one point, he was called one of the greatest pure goal scorers in hockey, and absolutely probably in the top 3 in Flyers history, believe it or not. So you look at the success of those around him as well during that time. You mentioned Bobby Clark, guys like that. Those guys don't see that sort of success without having a Reggie Leach, right? The role that he played within that organization was massive. And I'm not saying that was not recognized at that time, aside from having one of the coolest nicknames, in hockey. I'm not saying that went unrecognized, but it led to so much further success amongst his teammates. Most importantly, off the ice, the adversity, what he did for the Indigenous people, overcoming adversity from being a young man, alcoholism, things of this sort, and during a time where you didn't have a voice, right? It wasn't like today. And so many people like Reggie Leach never had a voice. So it's, looking at all that and taking that into account, 100%. I think Reggie Leach, it's kind of scary why he just continues to be unrecognized as far as overall at the end of this career, and has been eluded, when it comes to the NHL Hall of Fame. And I just want to say that's a shame. And I think now, it's never too late to go back and say you were wrong about something. I think the NHL should step up and look back at Reggie Leach and, show some appreciation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of similar to, like Minnie Minoso in the Major League Baseball this past season.
Mm-hmm.
He was another player that suffered a fair amount of adversity that negatively impacted his career numbers. But the Hall of Fame in baseball corrected that mistake. And I think that that's something that the NHL should consider and really, really do. Unlike baseball did before Minnie's passing, they should recognize Reggie Leach, specifically why he's still alive.
100%.
It would be a shame to get that recognition, too late.
Definitely. At this point in his life, after everything he's experienced, like you touched on, he's doing so much work in the community and still reflecting on his time. I know not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, he did an interview and, basically telling anyone out there, if you're struggling with what I struggled with, you need to speak up. And pushing hockey and players to recognize and be aware of those who are around you that may or may not be struggling. This is not a fight you want to fight on your own. Reggie Leach, even though it was well noted that a lot of his coaches and people around him were trying to enable him because they thought he was a better player when he was under the influence. I firmly believe it was debilitating, in a lot of ways, which makes you think, how much better could Reggie Leach, how much better would he have been had he been sober? What kind of level would he be at, right? What do the statistics look like at the end of the day? That's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, and maybe he would have gotten a chance in Boston, or maybe he would have turned around the Golden Seal franchise. That
Sure.
one probably not as likely, but
I mean, hey, you never know, right?
Yeah. But yeah, he definitely likely could have done even more. And we do know that alcohol shortened his career by quite a bit. So
for sure,
unfortunate in that regard. But I think we both agree Reggie Leach is underrated. So let's take a quick break, and we'll jump back here in just a moment. And we are back. Bo, is there anybody you wanted to talk about today?
Yes. All right. So in the honor of the NFL season, I'm going to discuss a player who's not a Hall of Famer, not part of some long tenured dynasty. He has no Super Bowl rings. But if you look back on history, he can be considered one of, if not the first dual threat quarterback ever. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. His career spanned nearly 16 years, and we saw 2 retirements in that time frame. So we're going to talk about Randall Cunningham.
Returning to Philadelphia.
Exactly. In today's game, you see Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, right? Quarterbacks that can see the open field and have the ability to take advantage of it. They create opportunities outside of the pocket and having the legs to do it. It's almost an absolute must for a player in today's game to be able to run and throw. The speed of the game has just changed. It's evolved, right? Pocket passers that are still out there, they're from a different era, right? It's the Bradys, the Aaron Rodgers, the Matt Ryans we talked about. Those guys are from a different era. The game has changed so much, but Randall Cunningham was ahead of his time. He and Steve Young were really the only two from their eras to have the ability to do this. Steve Young's story, we know, right? And well-deserved, but Cunningham's name isn't talked about. From the beginning, his collegiate career at UNLV showed that he was a multi-tooled athlete. He was All-American. He was an All-American selection in 83 and 84. And get this, as a punter. Not a quarterback, as a punter. I mean,
yeah.
The guy had a leg.
He still has the third longest punt in NFL history, right? At 91 yards.
Absolutely. That still stands as of this recording, right? So, he led the Rebels to an 11-2 season, which was the only 10-win season ever in school history. But that was, later adjusted to 0-13. A few issues with some players being ineligible, so that was erased. But, only 10-win season in history to begin. Randall Cunningham was quarterback. Eagles saw that potential. 1985 draft, he was the Eagles' second-round pick, but he was the first quarterback taken in the entire draft. His rookie season in the NFL was pretty awful. He started 4 games. He threw a TD. He had 8 interceptions, but, the Eagles loved what he could do on the ground. He averaged 7.1 yards per attempt in just that small sample size. The next season, he backs up Ron Jaworski. He's filling in on third and long situations, just making appearances here and there, but eventually takes over as a starter in Week 10 after an injury to Jaworski's hand. And, the Eagles' offensive line was historically horrible. I mean, they were so bad. Think about this. He took over in Week 10, where he only started 8 games, and he had made appearances here and there. That season, he was still sacked somehow 72 times. 72 times. Franchise record. Unbelievable. Wow. I mean,
yeah. Just
he only started
protection.
5 games. It's just, it was horrible. So, the following season, he finally gets named the number 1 starter, and the Eagles immediately see a complete turnaround. By 88, he achieves elite status, man. He's named to the Pro Bowl. He becomes the first black quarterback to start in it, believe it or not. 1988, it took that long. He led the league in passing yards. He takes the Eagles to the NFC Eastern Division Championship. They had a 10-6 record. I mean, his career was full of different accomplishments, across the board. In 89, he was their punter for a majority of the season, right? That's when he unleashed that 91-yard punt. Like we said, that still stands. He also rushed for 942 yards. The standard really for an NFL running back even today is 1,000 yards a season.
Yeah.
And he did it as a quarterback.
Yeah, which was just totally unheard of at the time.
At that time, he averaged 8 yards per carry that year. That was the 4th most ever for a QB. The 10th best in the league that season. But, over the next 5 years, Cunningham only had 1 season where he didn't win at least 10 games or more. His consistency was pretty incredible. The 1 season he wasn't able to win 10 or more games, he tore his ACL in week 1. Why this is important to talk about, this injury is where we really see a change in his speed, his athleticism. I mean, he never was able to recover from this injury, Even so, he did come back the following season, go 10-5, and he did rush for 594 yards, but he never rushed for more than 280 yards in a season after that again. So, 93, 94, he gets stuck in this West Coast offense he could never really grasp. He gets benched. He gets frustrated. The sport has taken this toll on his body, and he's now a backup, right? So he announces his retirement. He holds multiple records with the Eagles organization, and he just decided, hey, I'm done. But that wasn't the end. After sitting out all of 1996, Vikings head coach Denny Green called Cunningham while he was on the job site for a granite business he was running. That was his post-retirement right there, and asked him to come back to football. So he returns in 97. He made a few appearances, but 1998 changed everything. It changed everything for Randall Cunningham, and it changed a lot for the sport of football. Cunningham's named the starter. He's got Chris Carter, some kid named Randy Moss, Jake Reed. Vikings go 15-1. He throws 34 touchdowns. He only throws 10 interceptions. He's got 3,700 pass yards. He leads the league in passer rating. I mean, they scored a then NFL record 556 points.
Wow.
Making him the first black QB to lead the league in that category. Again, we're talking 1998 at this time. First black QB to do it. On Monday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers, he threw for 442 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he called it the greatest night of his football career. But the Vikings ended up being the first 15-1 team to fall short of the Super Bowl. They eventually lost by an overtime field goal against the Falcons. After that, Cunningham struggled. He struggled bad in 99, and he eventually got released so they could clear the way for some guy named Dante Culpepper. He had stints with the Cowboys and Ravens, before he finally goes back to Philadelphia. He signs a 1-day contract with the Eagles. And in 2002, he hung it up for good. So here's all I want to say. We covered a lot about Randall Cunningham, but he threw for 30,000 yards in his career. He ran for 5,000 yards. He had 241 total TDs, okay? He averaged 44.7 yards on 20 punts as a punter in the NFL. Okay, he did it all. Not to mention, He was 82, 52, and 1 as a starter. 30 games above 500, okay? He's never been a finalist or a semifinalist in Hall of Fame voting. At a time when offenses were built behind pocket passers, he was running, he was throwing, and the guy's kicking punts. NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 92, first team All-Pro, 2-time second team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. He's the third leading passer in Eagles history, and he's 6th in rushing all-time as well. 6th in rushing all-time as a quarterback. And still, today, holds the record for most yards per rush attempt. If you know anything about Eagles running backs, you can name some big names there. Deuce Staley, LaShawn McCoy. None of those guys have rushed, for more yards per attempt. Randall Cunningham still holds that record. But you know what? You're not going to hear or see his name on a list of all-time greats. It's not going to happen. He's not even in the discussion. So, I'm going to ask you, Lefty. You think he's overrated, properly rated, underappreciated, or just flat out underrated, man?
It's a constant theme, I think, on our show where the players we cover, we're doing something nobody else was doing at a time other people hadn't done it yet. Trend starters, people who changed the game in specific ways. And that's Randall Cunningham. As you mentioned, offenses were completely different at that time. And he really broke that mold. And I think his legacy has suffered because of that. When he was surrounded by so many quarterbacks that were, more traditional pocket passers, it was easy to overlook him. And with some reason. He had a really solid career, and he did things that no one else had done, but they weren't always great. He fumbled the ball a lot, and he threw a ton of interceptions. He started 135 games in his career, and he threw 134 interceptions and had 105 fumbles. That is a lot of fumbled balls, and
right.
and it does negate the rushing to an extent.
Sure.
But to get to your question, I think that he is underrated and underappreciated. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame player, but he's definitely someone who changed the game, and was well ahead of his time. And I think in that regard, as a player that completely changed the league, he probably deserves some Hall of Fame recognition.
Definitely.
There was a reason that he was called the ultimate weapon. Punting a ball 91 yards is nuts. Even if it was a little unexpected and wasn't it didn't have 91 feet of air time.
Right, exactly.
But nonetheless, those pooch punts out of the backfield, out of shotgun, still incredible. Wish we could see those more. But the impact that he did have, leading to more rushing quarterbacks, and ultimately to the system we have today, is something that definitely deserves a little more acknowledgement. So yeah, definitely underrated, definitely underappreciated.
Definitely. It's I take a look at the Hall of Fame discussion, and right, that's a tough discussion, right? But on that topic, I want to take a look at a guy like Warren Moon, for instance, who is in the Hall of Fame, right? This is a guy who finished his career with a 102 and 101, record, right? He had a similar amount of TDs. Again, did so much for the sport, but he made it into the Hall. Heck, you can even look at a guy like Dan Fouts. The passing yardage isn't there. Dan Fouts got about 13,000 more passing yards, more than Randall Cunningham. But he was 86 and 84 and 1 in his NFL career. He played in a similar amount of games. Obviously, completely different team, but we talk about these things. He didn't win a Super Bowl. Warren Moon didn't win a Super Bowl. So I feel like in those types of discussions, Randall Cunningham's name should be there. I feel just like you do. I feel like he's underrated and he's underappreciated because at the time they were trying to stifle him. He wasn't a part of any mold, right? They were building offenses around pocket passers. every successful quarterback in the league, like I said, other than Steve Young, who went on to do it. And, that became Steve Young's thing, obviously. And, he was highly, highly successful because he was with the right organization. Randall Cunningham was being innovative. He knew he couldn't win every down with his arm, and he was thinking outside the box. So, absolutely agree with you. Randall Cunningham, 100% underrated and underappreciated. But hopefully one day, people can look back and see why the Kyler Murrays and the Lamar Jacksons and the Michael Vicks have existed here. It's because of guys like Randall. So
yeah. And it'd be interesting to see what kind of career Randall would have, with his same attributes in the modern league.
For sure.
Where offenses are more, akin to that type of play style, and where people are actually, familiar with it and actively trying to win that way. I think that he'd probably be even more successful today.
Definitely. And I'll say this, a lot of the quarterbacks who were heralded as some of the greats, I think Randall Cunningham is a survivor in the modern game, and some of those guys I just don't believe with the speed of the game and how it's evolved and the size of these pass rushers and what goes on during the game. I think if you look at mechanics and fundamentals, I don't know. I know there's a hot take here, but I don't know if the Dan Fouts type of player, can be that successful, but I do think Randall would be. And, I think in a different scenario, different organization, different time and place, I think he could have seen more success, but that's another what if, right? But we can't agree that he's underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. One of those questions without an answer, but definitely underrated, underappreciated player.
Yes, sir. That's right.
So after that discussion, is there anything in the sports week coming up that you'd like to talk about? Anything you're excited about?
Okay, so we're mid-September, right? Like, we're really down to the wire here. I've been watching the Cardinals. They're in a series with the Brewers. They just won last night, had lost the evening before. The race is getting tight here, right? I'm really keeping an eye because some of these are so close. I mean, and some of them, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. I mean, that's still within reach here over the next couple weeks. Some of these can fall apart pretty quickly. We saw this happen with the Padres last year. I'm pretty pumped. This is my favorite time in the baseball season right here. Other than the opening weeks, man. I've been watching a lot of baseball. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely. You think my White Sox are going to pull it off? 3 games back, 3 more games with the division leading Guardians.
Listen, if they can keep TLR out of that dugout, they got a fighting chance, man. They've been hanging in there, all week, or I'm sorry, all season somehow. And I'll say this, right? We've seen crazier things. We've seen wild card teams over the years that have barely won 80 games going to the playoffs and, work some magic. It never ceases to amaze me, right? So it's just getting over that hump, right?
Yeah. If only he had needed to replace his pacemaker about 6 weeks earlier.
Yeah, I don't know how they could even consider putting Tony back out there, man. Listen, Tony, this has got to stop.
Honestly, they shouldn't even have him near the team.
This has got to stop, man. This is getting crazy.
Yeah, we had discussed it, but even national media's turning on him. There was an article written, published in the Athletic. I think it was yesterday. Just telling him to step away while he still has a little bit of dignity.
Absolutely. Just let it go. Again, here, you're almost 80 years old. What else is there to prove? Let's call it a day. I think we're good, man. I think you got a couple rings. I think you've done the dance, right?
Go hang out at your animal place in Arizona or whatever.
Play with your dogs. Drink some wine. Just listen. Retire.
Well, probably not that one. Probably not.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a good history with alcohol.
He doesn't have a good history with street lights.
A lot of things. Yeah.
Unfortunately. Well, like I said, I'm just glad he's okay. Don't want to see another situation like with the Queen. Just gone too soon.
Yeah, that'd be a shame.
We got your Brentford boys playing at what is it?
They're playing
midnight?
Arsenal. 4 a.m. here. 4 a.m. here on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be awake for that one. I try to wake up for those 7 a.m. games, but I've even made it. I've even made it for one of the 6 a.m. games, but 4 a.m. Pacific is just not going to happen unless I'm still awake for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing that just agitates me is that we're going out of town this weekend, and now it's going to be weeks since I've watched the game. Like, this is just like, this is irritating. I feel distant. I have the FOMO, like I've missed something, even though I know they didn't even play less. It's just the whole thing, man. It drives me crazy.
We will get another chance to watch one Brentford player though. I do want to mention Ivan Toney, who just had a hat trick in the last Brentford game, got called up to the English national team. That's the first time a Brentford player has been called up to the English national team since World War II, since 1939. I think the Queen was still 70 at that time.
Yeah, she was a senior, but she was younger. That's pretty wild. Like I can't imagine. I mean, are there any teams that have never had anyone called up? That's something I'd like to dig into, right? I mean,
yeah.
Who's out there that hasn't had a player called up to the national team?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'm sure there's somebody, but I don't know if it's any current Premier League teams.
Right. Well, I'm just glad it's back. It's I'm sure the players. I know there's going to be a lot of memorial type things, but I'll be happy to see them get back on the pitch and moving around. Obviously, NFL Week 2. Hey, listen, I gotta say, I'm proud of you. I didn't think you were gonna, flip on a game this season, or maybe accidentally, like if you're waiting for your tires to get changed on your car or something, a game was on. But like, I mean, you've been keeping up well, man. I gotta say, I'm really proud of you.
I refreshed my Twitter feed. I did turn on the Seahawks game the other day.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because I mean, with you being a local now, like, there was a lot of people who were really shocked, about Russell Wilson's reception for his homecoming. So, I want to get the locals' take, first take on this. What are your thoughts? What happened here?
Well, I don't know if anybody actually liked Russell Wilson or they liked him because he was the quarterback of their team. As we've talked about all week, that dude is the definition of corny. Everything he does is embarrassing to everyone around him.
I have to say, so I've been out of the loop. Like I hadn't. ESPN released this pretty, deep article about a lot of this. How his voice had fallen on deaf ears, essentially. Right? There was a lot of, in-house drama that was going on, and just the corniness too. And then like, ever since this whole, return after he leaves Denver, now he's back in Seattle playing. It's like, just like the earth opened up, right? Like, I mean, all this stuff had come out, and it is some of the funniest shit I have seen on the interwebs.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. This guy is a freaking dork. I mean, and I just didn't know if it was like, I told you jokingly, I'm like, here he's walking around, he's just goody two shoes, everything's about faith and family and all this stuff like this, but maybe he's living a double life. Maybe he's like, cartel member or something like that.
Yeah, probably not. I don't think he's even cool enough to have those thoughts.
Yeah, man.
But I did enjoy both Richard Sherman and Doug Baldwin throwing shade at him on Twitter after they lost. That was it just goes to show that even when they were the most dominant team in football, everybody around him still hated him.
Jeez, man. It's like I said, it's crazy. You've got one idea of who a player is, and then there's a different perspective that just comes out of the woodwork there. But I think this was just stuff that was going on for a long time. I just wasn't paying attention. That's what it seems like now.
Yeah. Either way, probably not somebody I'm going to think about again for a while.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? That's I'm glad that it's over with. There was a lot of first week. The NFL was pushing for a lot of drama. Not even on the field.
we saw two incredibly dominant performances from Jonathan Taylor and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this, but that was Justin Jefferson had his 5th career game with at least 165 yards receiving. That's the same number of career 165 receiving yard games as Devontae Adams has had in his entire career, as Marvin Harrison had in his entire career, and Reggie Wayne had in his entire career. Yet, he's not even played in 50 career games, Justin Jefferson. No. That's just insane production.
What's even crazier is that, everybody, including myself, talks about the Kirk Cousins and where he's all constantly lacking, and he's been able to put up these types of numbers with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. It is incredible. And I want everybody to think about this. Like, this could be a team right now. Had the Vikings not made this trade, they could have had Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson on the same freaking team at one time. That is creepy. That is scary to think about, But I've got Justin Jefferson on every single. I have 3 fantasy football teams. I'm a freaking loser, but he's on every single one of them, and he was amazing.
He probably carried your team.
Definitely. I just the abilities that this young man has. He continues to do this. He's gonna. A couple of years, he'll be one of the all-time greats, and I mean that like a couple of years just based on abilities and talent. Without a doubt, he'll be in that conversation with Calvin Johnson, with Megatron. The guy's going to retire, at 30 or whatever, and just still be one of the all-time greats. That's where Justin Jefferson is. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's kind of a similar level of early career dominance that we saw Jonathan Taylor also continue this past week.
Yeah, and see, I was worried about him. I thought, maybe this one-off season he did too much, right? You can't duplicate that. I don't know, man. Like, he's just a workhorse. He's just a workhorse, and I hope down the line he doesn't beat himself up so bad that you start to see it, the wear and tear, because in football, that's what happens. So
he has 1,800 yards just since week 4 of last season.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's no other running back that even has cracked 1,200 in that period.
Absolutely not. Most importantly, you even touch on this. Giselle was about to divorce Tom Brady over him on retiring. I think that's something we need to worry about.
Are we sure it's the retirement and not the Botox or whatever he's doing to look like an emaciated skull?
He shows up looking very gaunt with a terrible 90s haircut. And, obviously something's going on with his face. His chin looks bigger than ever. Very, very odd, right? But just recently, Giselle did an interview. And, to touch on a serious topic, she was concerned about, his body and CTE. And at 45 years old, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. There's without question. There's nothing else that this man has to prove. He just won another Super Bowl last year. What are you getting back out there to prove?
Yeah.
What are you getting back out there to prove, man? So it's just like, look.
I'm sure, though, if anybody has some pseudoscience diet that will fix CTE, Tom Brady's probably already written a book about it.
Yeah, and it's probably it's the base is probably beets or something, you know.
Yeah, you can only eat meat for 30 minutes a day, and it has to be like from a specific farm in New Zealand.
Yeah, definitely. It's you know what the cure for it is? It's just like some rare seaweed you can only find in the Pacific or some shit. You know.
Yeah. He'll be talking about it this week on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Dude, whatever he's doing, like, God bless the man, because if it's not just artificial like Botox and stuff, but I don't know how you continue to play a sport like football at age 45.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still taking hits. Like, let's not downplay it. I mean, you're almost 50 years old. You're still taking hits. You're still getting sacked. You're still getting knocked around. Like, I don't even understand it. I don't even know why he's out there. But guy keeps getting back out there, and that Bucks team is banged up, man. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
I can understand other seasons. I don't know about this one. Like, why even go out there? They barely beat that Cowboys team that was freaking terrible the other night. So we'll see.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, especially week 3 against the Packers. Once they play a team that's actually decent, or the Chiefs in week 4.
Exactly.
Might be a little rough.
You're gonna have two people out there combined age of 90. Going up against each other, so that'll be interesting,
Yeah, still younger than the Queen.
I'm gonna eat some like bangers and mash or something in memory of this woman this weekend or something like.
Yeah, I'll pour out a can of beans. We're going off the rails. We'll wrap this up.
Shocking.
Bo, it was nice talking to you. We got to talk about Randall Cunningham and Reggie Leach, 2 players that are most assuredly underrated. I hope you have a really, really great time on your trip this weekend.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next Friday to discuss 2 more underrated players. You can follow us on Twitter at @underratedpod. That's @_rated_pod. And you can listen to this episode and every episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever podcasts can be found.
All right. Until next time.